Good afternoon, Year 6. How can I develop an understanding of a historical event using sources? And our context is the beginning and end of World War II. So if we're developing our understanding, we are going to be reading and watching different sources. It might involve you taking some notes of key information, so not detailing everything that the video says, but just the most important parts that have affected the historical event of World War II, the beginning, the outbreak, how it began, and the end, how it was finalised, how things were left. And you'll be exploring the causes of the outbreak, the beginning, and also looking at the effects of that. And again, the causes of the end of World War II, so what led to the end, and again, the effects on that. To show you and help you along, I've actually done this same task that you're going to be doing, but I've covered World War I. So it'll give you a really nice insight and build up for what you need to do. So let's have a look. Okay. So in the centre, you're putting the event that happened, so the start of World War I, and so for you guys, you'll be writing the start of World War II. And then these are the causes, what led to the start, and then coming out is the effects of the start of World War I. So some of this is quite detailed. I'll try and fly through as quickly as I can. Great Britain, Germany, Austria-Hungary and Russia all ruled many countries, or colonies as they were called then, across the world. They wanted to keep their empires strong and saw other countries taking over new territories as a threat. Many countries had made alliances with one another. This means that they agreed to protect each other. If one was attacked, the others would defend them. When Germany and Austria-Hungary took control of small countries like Bosnia and Morocco, the rest of the world thought that they were being aggressive. That's how it was perceived. They didn't like that very much. This is a kind of bulky one. I'll make it a little bit bigger for you guys to read alongside me. So on 28th of June 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the heir to the throne of Austria-Hungary, so he was going to be the very next person in line, very important, he was shot and killed by a Serbian man, and this Serbian man thought Serbia should be controlled by Bosnia instead of Austria. Because of this, because of its leader being shot, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. As a result, three things happened. Russia got involved because Russia had an alliance with Serbia, so they had an agreement in place to protect and defend one another. Second thing that happened, Germany then declared war on Russia because Germany had an alliance, little bond, with Austria-Hungary. The third thing that happened was Britain declared war on Germany because of its invasion of neutral Belgium. Okay, so Belgium is neutral land, doesn't take sides, doesn't have alliances, it's a neutral place. So Britain had agreements to protect both Belgium and France, and that was Britain's cause for getting involved in the start of World War I. And the effects of all of this, it became known as the Great War because it affected people all over the world. Millions of people died. There was known as like the Trench War, and all the trenches were dug and lots of the battles were within those. Another effect, the Defence of the Realm Act gave the government more power than it usually would have. So the impact of that, there were restrictions on pubs, on bonfires, on buying binoculars even. Feeding wild animals was seen as a waste of food, and so it became a crime. Newspapers were stopped from writing anything that didn't support the war. Okay, only positive messages could be portrayed. Another effect, lots of new jobs were created, such as making weapons in factories, and it gave some women the opportunity to work for the very first time. So that's the start of World War I. This I've just included because I thought it was interesting in World War I. This is a world map illustrating the alliances, so when the countries come together to protect each other before the outbreak of war. So you can see the British Empire is everything in orange. So for a tiny, tiny little island, we sure, you know, have many, many friends, we could say. Now we go to the end of World War One. So this is the second cause and effect map that you guys will be doing. So the causes of the end. So Britain and France counterattacked strongly after Germany's Michael offensive in March 1918. In April 1917, the United States joined the war against Germany. They've got a huge army, very well funded. Another cause that led to the end of World War One was that the German Navy went on strike, and Germany and her allies realised it was no longer possible to win the war. The leaders of the German army told the government to stop. Kaiser Wilhelm, Germany's ruler, stepped down on the 9th of January 1918. So some say it was the leaders of the German army that told the government to stop at that point. That said a lot. And then we look at the effects. So World War One ended at 11 a.m. on the 11th of November 1918. This day became known as Armistice Day, the day Germany signed an armistice, which is an agreement to say we would like peace. And that was what caused all of the fighting to stop. So people in Britain, France, and other countries had huge celebrations. The leaders of the USA, Great Britain, and France met in Versailles, which is in France, to decide on what should happen next. And they didn't invite Germany, they didn't invite Austria, and nor did they invite Hungary. The agreement was called the Treaty of Versailles, and Germany was shocked because it really impacted them most in many ways. They had to accept the total blame of starting the war, and many other consequences were in place. Their army were restricted to 100,000 men. They were restricted to the amount of submarines they could build, the artillery they had. Other places that Germany owned were stripped and taken away from them. So it really hit them hard. Another huge effect was that the people of Germany were angry. The country had to pay 132 billion gold marks, this was their currency before they switched to the euro, to repair the damages of war. They became extremely poor, and the effect on the German people was horrendous. It really affected their lives in a nasty way, with shortages of food, and trading became problematic. So many dreadful causes and effects. The end of World War One. So you guys will have to do the start of World War Two and the end of World War Two. Now this really, when I did mine, although it looks like a lot of writing, I read through pretty quick. I tried to read as fast as I could. And we don't mind, if you're copying and pasting, that's fine, but just understand what you're copying and pasting. If there's a word that you're not unsure of, like what I've done here, chuck things in brackets for what it actually means, because otherwise there's no value in you learning, because you'd only be copying. So I would say you want to spend about 35 minutes on each. So 35 minutes for the start of World War II, and about 35 minutes for the end of World War II. Don't spend any longer on that. It's not worth you spending any more. See how far you can get, and even if you don't reach the end, don't worry. Take a picture of what you have done, and send that on the Google Doc that's under your assignment. Don't panic if you haven't got all the way and both of them completely done. Okay, don't put that pressure on yourself. Just do your best, do what you can, send us what you have got in the time. We've given you some links under your assignment, and now it is time for you guys to get going. So we look forward to seeing what you find, and we'll definitely give you the answers next week. If you're lucky, Miss Riley and her team in school might be able to supply them by the end of the day, but we'll see how they go. Definitely by next week, we'll give you some answers. Okay, guys? Have fun.